Welcome to Mobile Armor Radio, the podcast for all things Mecha. Jumpship incoming.
All right, and welcome to another episode of Mobile Armor. Oh, God, what was that? Did I just have a stroke?
Were you up a little too late for New Year's there, Pat?
What was going on? Let's try that again. Welcome to another episode. Welcome to another episode of Mobile Armor Radio.
Woohoo!
Yay! I'm still alive. This is episode 43. We are now heading into the new year. Season 4, episode 1.
No.
Question mark?
No, it's 12 episodes. 36 was the beginning of season 4. We're far into season 4 now.
Oh my God! All right.
Yeah, we're coming up on we got 5 episodes left or something like that.
Yeah, so 48 would be season 5.
All right. So we're good. So then we're like in the long stretch here.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah, I don't believe in seasons, so.
Oh, Rob.
And I'm Brian.
So difficult.
And he's Pat.
And I'm Pat, or Chopper, or the guy having a stroke.
Or guy, poor stroke boy.
Yeah. So we'll see if I make it to the end of this episode. So with that being said, let's move on into the dropship.
Dropship landing.
And welcome to the dropship. Let's see what everyone has been working on. I have a sneaking suspicion that this probably be the shortest segment ever.
I could see so.
Brian, what have you been working on?
Well, it's kind of still light on my end. I've been building out, been struggling with my 3D printer to continue building out some of the isolation protocol terrain bits for my elevated battlefield idea. In that my printer has been struggling to print the narrow struts that you have to use as connectors. So hopefully I'll get that fixed. I needed more filament, which is going to be arriving tomorrow. So we'll see if my changes will actually work. But other than that, I did get my hands on some of the newer models for the GCPS line of Dead Zone, namely the... I'm trying to remember what the name of the booster is. It's the one that has TAC drones and riot troopers. So those are... TAC drones are just these little spider-looking robots that have different weapon attachments on it. They're like a little walking weapons platform. And then the riot troopers are basically armored dudes with shields and shotguns. And I've got them kind of cut out. I've been putting a couple of them together and going to be eventually painting them, continuing with my Gundam theme of painting the TAC drones up to be balls and painting up the riot troopers to look like gyms.
So the balls will be like gray and orange, with orange accents, or? Yeah,
because they're hexagonal shaped. And then they do have like a little round pit in the center. I'm like, well, it's just like the ball's eye there.
Yeah.
So that should be fun. And then there was a new unit that was added in 3rd edition called the Ogre Trooper. Oh, gosh, what the heck is his full name? Like the Ogre Shock Trooper or something like that. Basically, there's an official Mantic Mini that's kind of just this really big, bulky, mutant-looking dude, and with a big mini gun that has blades on it. And it didn't quite fit the aesthetic of my Gundam list.
Or the GCPS.
Or, yeah, arguably. So what I wound up doing is I kit bashed using Ripper Suit and a couple other bits and bobs, and I made my own little like ogre battle suit, I'm kind of calling it. And so I kind of went the kind of an Appleseed route where you've got the pilot's like arms are kind of visible, kind of hanging outside the suit, but then it's got basically like, it's a big like exosuit kind of body armor. And what kind of the crowning piece on it that really kind of brought it all together was I couldn't figure out what to do for a head. And then I just took a Dreadball cheerleader like shield and I put it on there, and it fits like perfectly as this dome helmet.
Nice.
I'm like, awesome. Yeah, I'll share a picture of it with you. But that was pretty fun to actually put together. You know, it's always nice when it's 100% Mantic. I always like to try to work within those kind of constraints because it helps me be creative. But I've been going back and forth on painting that guy. If I want to do, because I've been doing a lot of the 8th team style of paint jobs for my Gundam Striders that I built. And I want this guy. I was considering either doing the gym ground type, which kind of has that tan yellow type of accents with white, or if I want to go gun cannon and make him like really red, and he would just pop against everything else I got on the battlefield.
Red, blue, and yellow.
Yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun. I'm leaning more towards that. The only downside is he doesn't have shoulder-mounted cannons, but maybe I could work something out for that.
I'm sure you could find some.
So, but otherwise, that's kind of been it for what I've been working on mecha tangent related. How about you, Rob?
I have backing some Patreon that's doing a bunch of X-Men minis, so I've been printing a lot of those, including, this is mech related, a Sentinel. So I have a giant Sentinel. He's all battle damage because the print didn't turn out great, but he looks like he's got battle damage, so it looks kind of cool. So I'm going to paint him up with some glowing parts where stuff got blasted off him. Also, Rebel Minis from the Kickstarter a long time ago, they did like a Viper suit Kickstarter. They're putting out more suits. This ones are called CAT suits, and they're a little more lithe, and they're pretty cool. But he does them in 15mm and 28mm, so I've been test printing all those. It's kind of fun. Nice. Yeah, I think that's about it. I haven't painted anything in a very long time. I gotta paint stuff. Pat, why aren't we painting stuff?
Mainly because of why I haven't done much for this segment, because we are packing stuff up for the remodel, and part of my hobby room is underneath the kitchen. So I got to pack some of that up so it doesn't get everywhere.
All the dust from above is going to fall on it?
Yeah. So I've been kind of putting away the paints and all the other things that can get messed up, and I won't be in the house for a while. So I was reluctant to start anything new. I didn't want to be inspired in something new and then not get back to it a month later and forget what I was trying to do.
Right.
So, but once this damn remodel is done, we're going to get back to painting again.
There you go.
Nice. When are you starting that?
Any of the year-ish. Nice. We haven't got a firm date from the contractor yet, so.
Nah.
In the meantime, another reason why I haven't done too much again is the overtime at work is too alluring for me to say no.
That's fair.
Well, so, in the future, we'll get some time to actually do some hobbying.
Yeah, well, hopefully when the need for overtime cuts down, or I shouldn't say the exorbitant amount of money they're paying us for overtime.
When that cuts down.
When that cuts down, then I won't be working as much, and then I'll be back to hobbying again. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, I joke about the overtime, but, hopefully that will slow down, because there's a reason why I'm working so many days now. So,
yeah.
Not to get on a soapbox, but let's let's move on then to ComStar, because I literally haven't done nothing.
Message from ComStar.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Dead Zone the podcast.
And you're listening to
Mobile Armor Radio.
All right, here we go at ComStar. Let's see what the boys have been reading and watching and RPGing and video gaming and all those other things. Let's start with Rob, because Rob's always good for a good TV or movie.
Well, first of all, there is news, so I'll get to the news first.
Okay.
That IDW is supposedly losing the G.I. Joe and Transformers comic book license. So they won't be making it anymore. And the rumor is it's going to Robert Kirkman's Skybound. He's the one who does Walking Dead comics, or used to. They're done now. But,
yeah, and what was the other one? Indestructible?
Oh, he's done tons. He's got this. Yeah. He puts out new comics all the time.
Or Invincible? Is that it?
Invincible, that's what it was.
Yeah, Invincible is the TV show that he just recently did, that based on a comic book from a while ago. But yeah, all those kind of things. So we'll see. Hopefully it's good at their new home if they end up going there. Who knows? Maybe IDW. But I think Pat and I, a while ago, IDW Games was having issue too. So I think the company might be having some dire straits right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see much IDW left. I think the only thing they have right now is they have Power Rangers, and I think they have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So they still have those two things. But man,
well, TNMT has been going for a long time too.
Yeah, but I think Power Rangers is Hasbro too, though. So that might be leaving too. Yeah. If they're losing all the Hasbro licensing. TMNT, I think, still owned by the original owners. So I wonder if they still own it. I don't know. I don't know who owns that now. Anyway, so IDW might be in trouble, but other than that, I did discover a new game thanks to one of our fans on our Facebook page. I'm going to go look for his name because I want to give him a shout out. Calvin Dragorovich. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, but probably not. He introduced something called Weasel Tech. And Weasel Tech is pretty much use your own minis, and it's a solo or co-op narrative focused by the guy who did 5 Parsecs from Home. So I'm trying that out. It looks kind of fun. And so it's going to be trying that stuff. It's available on Wargames Vault. I don't think it's available as a hard copy. I think it's only PDF. But you can, the link is in the show notes anyways, where you can go find it. But it looks fun. It's Brian, you have some play with the 5 Parsecs, so you can speak more to how that plays. But
yeah, no, 5 Parsecs is a pretty neat system. It is a lot of dice rolling and referring to tables of things, but I've liked it so far. I've only played. You kind of basically have a lot of background kind of narrative setup that you're kind of rolling through. Is like, okay, you're in 5 Parsecs, that is, where it's like you get a job, okay, and you potentially have like rivals and patrons and stuff like that, and basically you build up to go on a mission, and then after the mission it's like, okay, what resources do we grab? Did we lose anybody or people injured? Like, what does that mean for the team? It's pretty neat stuff, actually, and like it works pretty well as far as a solo game goes. If you're just kind of, as quarantine has done for a lot of folks, is like, I'm just playing at home with whatever minis I got. So I've been using Dead Zone, obviously, and no, it's a fun time.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get into that. I also picked up the Warfleets FTL one-page rules space combat game. We're always looking for a good space combat game, and going to try this one out. A lot of people like it, and it's light on rules, which I like. Speaking of which, Interceptor is coming back out from FASA. They're just doing a Kickstarter now, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I saw that.
That space combat's back in the news. This Interceptor, though, I guess they probably don't own the rights to the old rules, because this, they said, is all brand new rules, so they must have had some... They might have the name, but they don't have the whoever designed it, probably. So
yeah.
And a little shout out to One Page Rules. I don't know if we've talked about them much on the show, but they got some really neat stuff. A lot of it is free to try out. So if you're just looking for a more kind of rules light system of play, like like the name says, all the rules are on one page. A lot of it's D6 based, and you kind of go from there. So fun stuff.
Yeah, it's I like the concept of not overburdening anything, and this FDL one that everybody kind of raves about. So I'm excited to get into that too, because we have a lot of Babylon 5 ships we have to use for something.
It's true.
So another thing that Brian brought up was that Titanfall got pulled from Steam because there's too many hackers. So we lost a mech game.
Oh no.
Yeah, there were some pretty big security risks that people's computers were getting exposed to. I forget if it was key logging or what, but pretty significant hack that was not hacking the game to make it unfair, hacking the game to get to the players, which is not good. So they did pull the game. I know at least Titanfall 1 and its multiplayer server, I think, is down. I might still be... I think 2 might still be up, but at the same time, like, it is a shame because Titanfall... I only played 2 because I don't play multiplayer much. But the campaign they put together for that game was really solid. Really gave you a breadth of the world, and you got these big old stompy mechs running around. It was a whole lot of fun. So it's a shame that that kind of interference and interruption and the resources you have to put to countering something like that. I hope that they're able to recover from that and hopefully protect their players in the future.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen for other games too. Any other multiplayer games. So, yeah, that's scary. The future, it's all hacking. On a personal note, I broke down and watched all the Battletech animated series on YouTube. I decided to watch all 12 episodes, I think it is. And it's not as bad as I remember. The CGI parts are terrible. But the actual story was pretty fun. I told you the
thing wasn't horrible. That's when we, with the last episode, that's why I would like to see a nice remake, because it's not a horrible story.
No, the story itself was fun. It's just, the CGI really lets it down, because I would like to rather see those mechs fight in animated style instead of the terrible 90s CGI.
Was that like around the same time as like Reboot?
Yeah, I think it was a little after. It was. I think it was it just before Beast Wars. It might be the same company doing all the things.
Gotcha. It would make sense because they all did kind of look the same.
Yeah, so I think it was because I know the people who do Reboot did Beast Wars, and I'm not sure if Battletech was in between those. It was pretty basic, anyways, and they kept going into the augmented view, which was the 3D. It was not good, but it was fun otherwise, and it was over pretty quick. So. It's all available on YouTube. You can just search for Battletech animated series. The people have remastered them, so they're like old VCR rips, but they look good. And it's the only way to watch the show, so it was fun. And of course, Genlock Season 2 is over now at this point, but I'm not quite to the end of it. But it's been a really depressing, crazy season. It's pretty dark. It's I don't know if there's going to be a season 3, but it's really coming to a head right now. So it's a lot of tortured souls and death and mass death. So it's very interesting because at the first season it was pretty much you thought the where the Genlock guys are, you thought that's the good guys, like the society, but you soon realize that they're not very good guys.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah. Well, and the other side is maybe good, maybe not good. Like it's really interesting. A lot of philosophical issues coming up, so it's fun. Sure. It's really, once again, really well written, and especially if you can watch it all at once. I think I'm watching it weekly, and it's a little slow watching it weekly. I think if you could watch it all at once, it'd be or at least in a marathon, so it'd be a little bit more, because. I think if you want action, there's not as much action this season, but I like the story a lot better this season. So, and that's about it for me. That's all my ComStar. I don't think I've done anything else or read anything else. That's about it. So, Brian, what you been up to?
Well, I got a couple of things. For one, I'd finished playing through one of the games I had, so I did pop back over to Front Mission 3 for a little bit. I played a little bit of that. Got a couple missions further in. I'm pretty sure I'm getting close to the end of the game, so I am trying to push my way through. I do have... So one thing I've got going on right now is over in kind of a fan group of Mantic games is that there's a writing contest going on right now, and I'm working on getting my story submitted or put together, written and everything. And obviously, the time is running short. As of the time this episode airs, it will have been due yesterday. So, I'm a lot of my free time right now is definitely getting funneled into finishing up that story. Sadly, there's no mechs in it yet, apart from aforementioned attack drones, actually. But it's something I do. At one point, I gotta write some kind of story about a Strider. Anyway, so I'll be picking up Front Mission again. Is basically what I'm saying after I finish up my story. But apart from that, I in kind of a Mecha adjacent one, I did watch the live action Cowboy Bebop series on Netflix, and I won't lie, I'm in the camp that's disappointed that it got canceled like right away.
Yeah, me
like,
too.
A week or two after the season aired. It's obviously it's not a shot for shot, and a lot of people I think have rightly called it kind of a remix of the series. We get a lot more of stuff kind of that was in the background brought to the foreground, or even stuff that wasn't present before. The character of Julia really gets fleshed out more. She has more agency in the story than she did in the original.
Character, not just an object.
Yeah, and like we even get an episode where Vicious and Spike, like we get to see them in their kind of gang days, like being buds, which was kind of refreshing. It's funny to me because I recognize the original anime, for what it is. It's a seminal piece of art, really, both from music and animation and even storytelling standpoint. But I only remember some of the more outrageous episodes, so it was kind of a weird refresh and like, oh wow, like the first episode has like a lot of stuff from Desperado, right? It's a lot of like Ron Rodriguez stuff in there, and a lot of the other influences are kind of fun too. So I feel like it was judged harshly by many, fairly by others, because there is stuff that just doesn't quite land the way you want it to. So it's one of those things where it kind of runs into this thing where it's just a good show. It's not a great show, and that was kind of its downfall, I think.
Well, I think the production-wise, it was pretty great. But yeah, the story, they were almost slavishly trying to stay within the bounds where they should have just gone for their own thing. Like they were kind of halfway in and halfway out, and I think that hurt them a little bit. But there's a lot of obviously Netflix doesn't cancel things because of word of mouth. They cancel things because of numbers, and they looked at the numbers, and it was obviously didn't get enough people. So I can't blame them for that, but the word of mouth makes it so other people wouldn't check it out for sure. So
yeah,
it definitely wasn't accessible for the normal people. Like normies couldn't go watch this show, I don't think.
Well, like at the same time, like I said, like I was coming from the perspective where I barely, like I don't remember the main plots of most of the original anime. I'll remember those, like some individual episodes that were really kind of stand out or weird. But like, so like I couldn't even really remember like what their ultimate beef was with each other.
Yeah.
But like I will say, like I thought the cast was great. So like I think there were just some weird directional choices for some of the different characters that didn't quite work. But like the people behind it, I think definitely had a passion for it, and so that's where it kind of comes back as like, man, they had this excitement for it, and to hear, you know, it's basically to get the rug pulled out from under them is really a shame.
Yeah, really, because it was only how many episodes? 10? Was it even 10?
8?
8? Yeah, it was.
I think it was 8 or 10.
So they never really got a chance to get their own feet. Yeah, like, it's usually season 2, by then, like, shows like, what's that, Another Earth, and, like, they get extra seasons. Like, I'm amazed, like, some of these things. But like I say, it's not accessible for, like, a normal like, not an anime fan. I'm saying, like my sister or someone like that. Yeah, they would never go watch that show, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of have to be willing to... I mean, Firefly ran into that problem back in the day, too. On top of course, you know, Fox meddling with how the show
I feel that was more mishandling of the series itself.
Yeah, but even so, like, it wasn't some show that normal people is going to go watch.
It wasn't directed at their core demographic,
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it's... like I said, it's a shame that they're not going to get a chance to continue. I remember hearing an interview on kind of a similar note, the people that were behind the Dragon Prince show, they were talking once about how they were really nervous because they were trying to tell a long-form story of their series, and they were kind of, you know, just waiting for the day where they get the axe.
Yeah.
In the middle of their story. I think thankfully they were able to see it to fulfillment, but I think there's a lot of them that, and Netflix just kind of does that a lot. Is just kind of out of nowhere. I remember all the Marvel Netflix shows, like what was it? Jessica Jones had aired. I think the last Punisher series came out, and literally like the next day they're like, yeah, all of them are canceled.
Yeah, that was a lot of a mandate from the movies. They didn't want to have
probably
two different things going on. But I find Netflix, they just weigh their viewership, like how many people came and watched this versus how much it costs, and that's it. Like there's a bottom line. They don't suffer.
It's crazy that it's based off the opening week like a movie, right?
Yeah, like, for sure.
And especially these days where people are spreading out their binging, I think more so than they used to. But I digress. I think that's enough of that. But I will say that it did spark in me my fascination with 90s anime. And so I actually put on one of my favorites of that trifecta from back in the day. You had Cowboy Bebop, you had Trigun, and you had Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
And so I'm over halfway done rewatching Outlaw Star right now, which worked well because it was also kind of helped me get the ball rolling on my aforementioned story, which involves a spaceship and a crew and everything like that, which also led me to go play FTL again, the video game, which holds up pretty well. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's hard. I still play that every once in a while.
Yeah, it was really good. So I think that's enough rambling for me. So what do you got going on, Pat?
Nothing.
I'm glad I could fill that.
Yeah, I'm glad you rambled. Cause
boy. Well, you know, I mean, since we're talking fleets, you know, I think we talked about it last time. I picked up the old D&D generic rule called Star Empires, which I was planning on kind of seeing if we can do aerospace kind of things with the figures and like that. So that was kind of my thing. I did start watching Genlock Season 2. Now I know I need to buy tissue paper.
There's some shocks.
But other than that, I have not done too much. A lot of C2E2 took a lot of my time and work and things like that. So Oh, I suppose we could talk about C2E2.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any mech-related things at C2E2? No
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 Bluefin,
Bandai?
no Bandai. But there was a store, and I wish I could remember what it's called now. It's out of Michigan. They're always there, but they were selling Gundams and some model kits and everything, so at least there was that. But C2E2 in itself was very, very...
Wasn't Michigan Toy Store?
No, it was something else. God, if I saw the name, I would know it. But C2E2 in itself was very, very sparse this year around, so I think they were 40% capacity.
Wow.
And just not a lot of the normal stuff. And that area where Bluefin was really just open space.
Yeah, that's crazy, because that was a huge booth.
Yeah, and then you usually have a giant Gundam, but this year they didn't, and I felt sad.
That's too bad.
So, but I'm hoping by 2023, C2E2 will be back in its normal date and back to all the good, lovely Gundamness that comes with it. But other than that, yeah, not too much. But the month of December has been very just really work related. So, but that's about it.
That's busy.
So, all right. Well, then let's move on to the MechBay Hanger.
Now entering the MechBay Hanger.
All right, and welcome to the MechBay Hanger. I remembered as we were speaking the name of that store that was selling Gundams at C2E2, and it was called Galactic Toys and Games out of Kentwood, Michigan. A very good section. Head on over there, check it out if you live in the Michigan area. I don't know where Kentwood is, so I couldn't even tell you which way direction is, but let's ask our resident Michiganer.
He's not really from there, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. Okay, so it's over by the Grand Rapids area.
There you go.
So that's
your
good. I'm literally the other direction.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's nowhere near Grand
Aren't you in Grand Rapids?
No.
No, I'm in Livonia.
Oh, where's Rick at?
Lansing.
Rick is in Lansing, and so if you drew a line from where I am to where Rick is and kept going for half the state, like you would get Grand Rapids. It's more West Coast, kind of.
Got that West Coast feel.
North of Kalamazoo, southeast of Muskegon.
They're all surfers over there.
I know Muskegon. That's about it. Out of everything you just came out of your mouth, Muskegon was the only thing I heard.
Gotcha. But yeah, so it's more west side. So it's probably a good 2-3 hour drive from where I am.
It's probably closer to Pat than it is to you.
It might be, actually.
That's true. All right, so now that we've given Galactic Toys and Games a shout-out, let's... topic for the MechBay Hanger today is, why do you guys think Battletech has lasted for as long as it has? And why do you think it hasn't reached the same popularity as all the other, say, miniature games like 40K?
What's 40K?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
It's a very popular game. But I don't know if you guys want to lead, because since I don't have a whole lot of experience with Battletech outside of the video games.
Yes.
Because I played MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries back in the day.
Classic.
And then and I really didn't play another one until the Battletech game came out by Harebrained Schemes or Studios or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're right the first time.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed both for sure. Yeah, so how about you guys kind of throw your ideas out there, and then I'll kind of circle back.
Well, I do think the video games did help for the longevity of it, because until recently there was a lot of video games for many years, even when the tabletop wasn't as big.
So. Yeah, I think that's what the tabletop is, or sorry, the tabletop. The computer games, I think, is what kept it afloat.
Mm-hmm. During the dark times. Yeah,
the dark
literally
times.
Dark Ages.
What I like to call the WizKid era.
Yeah. Well, Clicky Tech, Clicky was huge.
It was huge, but it just didn't. It wasn't the same kind of diehard people There were a lot of
it was
new
little
people.
kids buying little booster packs. That's what you
Yeah.
want. Stupid kids spending their money.
I was one of those kids.
Exactly.
But I think the click thing is what killed it, because the click thing, I think, other than hero clicks, have all kind of fell by the wayside. Wouldn't you agree? Because I don't think I see any more click games.
Oh, HeroClix is the only one that does it.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally HeroClix, but I don't see any of the other click games that were out there.
And even HeroClix, I'm pretty sure most people collect them as a collectible, not as they play the game.
Yeah, probably.
Like, even I have a bunch of superhero, like X-Men HeroClix. I've never played any click games, so. Also, I think Battletech, obviously, Big Stompy Robots, it's pretty unique, especially back then. There wasn't any other game like it, so I think that people wanted to play that. They played that for a long time. But 40K, the reason that it's so popular, and other games, well, I don't know if there is any other games with the same longevity as Battletech and 40K. I don't think there's anything else that's lasted that long.
No, I mean...
other than, like, role-playing games, but no miniature game, I don't think. I can't think of one.
The only thing that comes to mind is, like, other historical...
Oh, yeah.
Like historical is definitely going to have some longer teeth to it. I mean, that goes back to the origins of tabletop gaming.
Exactly.
In Napoleon days.
Napoleonics and everything like that. I think another thing that's kept Battletech also is their vast.
It's a stroke coming back.
It's a stroke.
I just cannot speak today. The vast amount of literature they have.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who just read the books too, yeah.
And I think that helps a lot with keeping things alive and people interested. Because you go back, you see your technical readout manual, and you cruise through it, and you're like, oh, you know what? Let's call my good friend Rob. Let's play a game of Battletech again. And we play Battletech for a couple of months, and then we kind of go back into the next thing. You know, I think that's kind of Battletech's cyclical.
Well, and the beauty of Battletech, other than the clicky rules, is that the rules haven't changed for Battletech from the beginning till now. Very few changes. Like, FAQs have been implemented, but it's the same rules. Like, someone who's played it 30 years ago or 40 years ago can play it now, and they'd still not be that confused by the differences.
Yeah, they've definitely not gotten through the same amount of versions that 40K has done.
But I think that was why 40K is still around, is because, unlike Battletech, there's always been new things always been put out for 40K. Like, to its detriment sometimes, but there's always refreshing the brand, like, constantly. Like,
Well, yeah, and I think that's where, like, 40K has proven to be successful, at least from a financial standpoint, right? Is that they put out, like, when you take Space Marines, right? Same models. But you convince people that there's,
slightly bigger?
12 different factions of them.
Or then they get sick of that and they slightly make them a little bit bigger and then resell them all again to you.
And not to knock 40K, because, you know, obviously people like the game and they play it. I honestly don't know what's going on in that world space these days. But I played it growing up. And I do think, like, as a point of comparison, like, I think the building of an army, I think, is also, like, another aspect. I remember like, I've got this army of guys, right? Yeah. Versus a lance. I think there's a quantity factor of that where
Battletech doesn't scale up very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where 40K, you can have huge amounts of models and switch in and out. That's true.
You put too many models on a Battletech game, then you're there.
It doesn't end. Yeah. Even Alpha Strike gets bogged down after a few lances each. So I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. And the collectability of like Battletech has a lot of different varieties, but once again, there's the miniatures themselves. There hasn't been that many miniatures put out over the years. Like, literally. Before recently, it's not that many. Like,
no, it's true, because for the longest time, it was always just been metal minis.
Yeah. I think that was another thing that 40K was able to do. Actually, when I was getting into it, was when they had the hard plastic sprues where, like the arms were separate, like, and the torso was its own. Like, basically, like I have that issue of White Dwarf where they changed the Space Marines so that you could assemble your guy right from the ground up, as opposed to he's going to stand in this pose and you glue the gun into his center.
The funny thing is that they've gone back to the old way now. They're all pre-posed.
Ironically, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. But I think that did like kind of brought forth a whole lot of that creativity and ownership
hobby
of what you were working on.
Yeah, they don't have, once again, Battletech doesn't really have the hobby aspect. They're almost all pre-posed. Like, recently, there's, with that new company, what's the name of that company again? That's working with Catalyst, that they're making the ones that you can build like that. But before then, it was all, you'd have to cut your own minis up and make your own thing. They're not giving you the options like they did for 40K, for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, that was something, too, like, I won't lie, is, like, the monopose, like, the lack of, at least outward customizability. I'm kind of come from that mecha feel of, like, kind of like Armored Core, where I just like to slap, different arms and stuff onto something, and really kind of make it fit into my play style, as opposed to adapting a play style to fit the preset loadouts. I know there's it's a very simple understanding. I know there's a lot of depth to how you can set these guys up.
Yeah, you can actually build your own mechs too. Like, that's something that they never leaned into on the miniature side, is you can build your own mechs or mod your own mechs up, and that's like, obviously
you can make your own variants.
Yeah, so obviously that you didn't know that means that they're not selling it well enough as a customizable game, like, for sure. Yeah,
I think if that was pushed, I mean, it'd be really neat to see and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about this. If there was a Battletech line where it was like a plug, different parts together within the model, like if it was torso, legs, arm, and arm, like that would be kind of killer, actually.
That's what I'm trying to think who that new company is, because that's pretty much what it is. They've made the Black Knight, and it is all the different options you can put onto him. And I'm trying to remember who is it that makes that game, makes that knight. We talked about them a long time ago. But yeah, that's what it is. It's exactly what you're saying. They're finally catching up to that. That creative juggernaut. That's who makes it. Creative juggernaut.
You figured it out.
Yeah. So they are doing that now, but you're right. It's a little.
I think that the technology, like the modeling technology, as it was, like you were saying earlier, like metal pewter minis, like that was the way it was for the longest time for a lot of these.
And terrible poses, and yeah. Although with metal, you can always bend it into place, but it definitely isn't like the new Catalyst. I think that's why there's a big resurgence for the Battletech right now. Is those new Catalyst miniatures are amazing looking, and I think once they're more available, that's another thing that 40K. You go anywhere, you can get 40K. It's a lot harder to get other people's, especially Battletech right now with supply chain issues. I think availability has really hurt them over the years too, where they just didn't have the supply.
So we have been kind of touching a lot on like some things that maybe have held it back from being maybe as successful as something like 40K. But what do you guys kind of feel like has kept it in the zeitgeist, if you will? Like, I think people know what Battletech is. Like you go to a miniature store, like even 40K players, I'd argue, would probably know or at least loosely familiar with what
Battletech is. It's been around long enough,
Well, I think because it's still, in a sense, a niche game, there are not very many mech. I mean, now there is a few more, but in 25 years, I would say,
for a long time there was nothing.
Mech battle game. I mean, now within the last 10 years, you got Cav now, I think, which is the only other large-scale mech battle game out there.
Robotech Tactics tried, and they blew up spectacularly. So
yeah.
Well, you get heavy gear. heavy gear and things like that, but even heavy gear doesn't have the same mass appeal as even Cav has done now. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that, again, I still say spurs Cavalon too is an engaging quote-unquote history.
Yeah.
Game history.
And Battletech's got that, like, the lore for Battletech is literally hundreds of years filled in. Like,
it's deep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know much about 40K lore, but I'm sure it's probably just as deep, but I can't see anything being as deep as Battletech. It is crazy how much has been written.
It is. I don't think it's as deep, and I feel like the 40K lore is deep, but it's also very convoluted.
Well, I would argue that some of Battletech's convoluted too, but
yeah.
Well, when you've had that many different authors come through with different ideas for so many years, like I was talking to a buddy that was talking about that with 40K. It's like, well, when you go to this author, like this is how Space Marines are come to be, and like then you go over here and it's just a bunch of like hardened criminals and the worst degenerates that they could find, and it's like, is it one or the other?
Yeah, it's the beauty of Battletech, too, is that it's been pretty much the same guys early on are still with the company. So I think there's been a singular vision in that way where they don't really... They might contract themselves on a few little things, but things like that, they're pretty spot on. Like, everybody seems to work... Like, they've always had a strong sense of the world, which is probably helped it a lot, too.
And they're all steering the ship in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
And the thing is... some of the guys who originally were in with the Facet group became the video game guys, so that's why they're so tied together too. Like, it's all the same people. Like, they're all from the same place, which is interesting in that way too. It's very insular, and sure they get new writers in, but there's the same old writers are still there, like Blaine Pardo or Stackpole. Like, they're still kicking and still writing books. Like, so there's always that through line. I think that's pretty amazing with Battletech. The people who like Battletech really like Battletech. I think it's a cult almost.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a large cult then, because you can go to any game store and you will always find someone. You could probably find someone who will play Battletech with you.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Like I can say that the question is if they are playing Battletech.
Yeah, they probably have played it in the past. Yeah, that's the thing.
But so, and like, again, from my outsider's perspective, like, I do feel like the most recent big, like, push, from Catalyst, behind Battletech, I think, going to Adepticon and with the starter boxes that came out and everything, like, I do feel like there has been a big push to get it into a broader audience. I don't know, like some old games that have been around a long time, I do think they one thing they can run into, and sometimes to their detriment, is they kind of have the older players that still really enjoy the game and everything, but they fail to capture a newer audience. And so, like, do you guys, from what you've kind of seen, especially since, I know you guys go to a lot of these events where, they're selling these games, like, do you see a lot of kind of a new generation of Battletech players kind of emerging?
Well, I definitely
or are you just
do.
Not quite sure?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the 40K guys recently have come over to Battletech. It's almost like Battletech's almost respected by those guys, that when they get annoyed with 40K, they come over to Battletech, which is kind of funny. But these new starter boxes are definitely, and with that Kickstarter, I think they really realized how much the old players came back. A lot of them came back into it, but also a lot of new players. Like Beast of War, there's a lot of guys, the English guys, never played Battletech. Battletech's not a thing in England, really. It's very North American, and even it's penetrating their zeitgeist over there, which is I think that's a major thing where
That's impressive.
Yeah, where, like, I think Germany was the other big holdout with Battletech. For some reason, Germans love Battletech, so that's the interesting thing. There's a lot of, like, books and stuff that are only in German, which they're slowly translating over. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're obviously German influence, but it's definitely, this Catalyst has hit the right time, but unfortunately the wrong time because of everything that's happening in the world right now. They've had a lot of issues with getting the product into hands, and that's frustrating a lot of people.
True.
And if it had been
it's too bad.
It's because it was they had everybody in their hands, and then all of a sudden they couldn't supply all these people that want it. But as long as they can keep up the momentum, I think they'll be fine once we get through all this. And I think even now everything seems to be back on track. Like the Kickstarters have been shipped, and I keep hearing about the starter sets and everything and the clan sets being available, so you can actually go buy them now. So I think we're slowly getting through that backlog. So that'll help.
I think the next step would be have your customizable mech kits.
Yeah, that's the thing with that was a test with that Black Knight, and I think it did well. It sold out in like seconds, but that's the problem with those are all the hardcore fans buying them right there, right? So
Yeah.
Although they have these Wolf Dragoons Force Packs are at Barnes & Noble as exclusive, so it's almost like becoming... Once you start doing exclusives in certain stores, that almost brings you to a new level of... It's annoying, but it also shows that you have that much influence that you can provide exclusives. Like, that's pretty cool. So...
Yeah.
Like, for the consumer, it's terrible, but for the company, I think that's a really good sign, because obviously Barnes & Noble paid them for that exclusivity, right? So...
Yeah,
that's a good sign for Catalyst, and as long as Catalyst keeps going, I think Catalyst is ever since FASA. I think Catalyst has been the company to do it. So I think we're in a golden age right now, or renaissance at least. So it's good times for Battletech.
I think so too. I do too. I guess. Do you think with the way we're trending with Battletech that Battletech could possibly reach the popularity? I mean, especially now that we're taking, well, I should say we, like I'm part of Battletech. Do you think now that I'm seeing a lot of, on message boards, a lot of 40K players jump and ship to Battletech, do you think now that we're trending to be a little bit, quote unquote, more mainstream?
Oh, it's definitely becoming more mainstream. Nothing will ever be 40K. That's the thing. No. 40K is I always attribute to a abusive husband. Like, no matter how much they treat their players like crap, they always do something that'll be like, hey, look, we're changed. We're better now. Come on back. And they come back, and then you treat them like crap.
Very, very Stockholm syndrome.
But well, the thing is, you spent so much money on those armies, you're not going to leave. Like, very few people have the strength just to get out, right?
I did.
I know, but that's rare. Like, I think it's, so many people feel it. There's a psychological reason to that. I forget what they call it, but where you put so much into something, you don't want to give it up, even if you don't like it anymore. Like, it's one of those things. So
it's almost like a gambler's situation where it's like, well, I've kept putting coins in, I'm bound to win sometime.
Yeah, it's the same idea, I think, where it's like a investment into something where you think that it's you can't get out of it. But I definitely think Battletech's jumped up into, I don't know how much money they make, but they're definitely big. Like, to be able to be doing Barnes & Nobles, like, is there any other game that's big enough right now other than board games? But I mean, like, miniature game? I don't think, even 40K, I'm not even sure could do that kind of thing in North America. They're
in there, and same with...
No, but I'm not exclusive items, though.
Oh.
Like, that's an interesting thing. Like I say, it's a North American... Battletech is North America's 40K, I think, and it's just... I think it's an interesting way it's going, and I'd like to see... Mm-hmm. Like, imagine getting into, like, Walmarts and stuff. I think that's the big thing. Like, once you get into, like, mainstream stores... in North America, I think that'll be the big change. Barnes & Noble is obviously a mainstream store, but it's not as big as some of the big box stores, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But then just recently, Asmodee got bought up by some fund company, so the biggest company in our industry, like way bigger than 40K, everybody, Asmodee is a huge company, just got bought by some other company, so... I think it's all really? Small bananas compared to everything else. Yeah,
I didn't even see that.
Some fund, what do they call it? Hedge fund kind of. They own a lot of video games too. This company, so everybody's like, oh, maybe they'll make. And it's like, no, what it is this company's just buying it to sell it. Like, that's what these big companies do, right? So.
Yeah.
But So whatever the scale is
buy
we're
low,
at, it
sell
doesn't.
high.
Yeah, whatever the scale is that any kind of tabletop is, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But I think Catalyst has jumped up to be a major contender with this whole thing in the gaming tabletop gaming community. So it's kind of
and I hope they can keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Like I do like a lot of the stuff that comes out of Catalyst, even if I don't wind up playing the games as much. Like I do, the anything that's keeping the sci-fi stuff and going and around, I think is always pretty cool. So
yeah, they also got Shadowrun too. So
yep.
Shadowrun's huge. But yeah, it's going strong. Battletech is this is just the beginning of a new era for Battletech, I think. And
I do too.
They have to make it more clear for how to get into it. A lot of people get, there's so many different books that a lot of people get confused. It's like, well, just buy the box sets. That's the way to go. But eventually you expand.
Yeah, I'm in that camp where you guys have talked a number of times about all the lore and the books and everything, and I'm like, I have no idea where I would start.
Yeah.
So
that's the beauty of the Game of Armored Combat. There's a beginner's box and there's the new clan box. You get those 3 boxes, you're set for a long time. Plus, you can buy all the miniatures you want. That's the beauty of it. But yeah, there's so many other books that I think it does confuse people. Plus, the whole idea of Alpha Strike as a different way to play, that confuses people too. So yeah,
probably
they need a primer or something online, or even that they have a little pamphlet that they put into every game store to say, hey, this is what you need. This is how you start. This is how you expand. Something clear, because they're not so clear with that. If you weren't paying attention, it is not as easy as it seems. So.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah, because like I remember I picked up the beginner box, and I think it only comes with 2 minis.
Yeah.
And then the rest are standees, and I was just like, I was really expecting some minis.
Wow, that's old school. The old Battletech is all standees. There's no miniatures back in the day.
Right.
But yeah, the Game of Armored Combat
is reflected in the beginner box.
Yeah, it's only $20 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. So probably should have known that was coming.
Yeah, I think the beginner's box is 20. The Game of Armored Combat's like 50, and the clan box is I think 50. Like I say, you get those 3, and you'd be good to go for quite a while. And just add small rules as you go. Don't try to eat the whole thing all at once. Don't try to add in all the little things and.
I would even suggest try even the Alpha Strike after you go with the box set.
Yeah, that's something they need in the box set. Yeah,
I just realized one other thing that can be a struggle to hit is the hex maps, like the availability of those.
That's the beauty of Alpha Strike. They don't use hexes. It's all measured.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all measured in Alpha Strike.
Really, Alpha Strike should be in the beginner's box. It shouldn't be Battletech. It should be Alpha Strike, and then you expand into Battletech.
Yes, I think that might be...
That would probably be a good gateway.
Especially since they give you the Alpha Strike cards in the box, and that's a little confusing, too.
Because I've always kind of felt like when I hear the difference between the Alpha Strike and Core, I can't help but feel like, man, Core just sounds so crunchy.
It is. It is. It's super crunchy.
And I'm like, I think I could only take... to dive into Core just sounds like a pretty big commitment.
Yeah.
Versus something like Alpha Strike, which sounds much more my speed. For one thing, but I do feel like a lot of these games, right? You get a little taste of maybe a streamlined version of the rules, something that simplifies the more complex pieces. People get into it, and it's like, okay, now I'm immersed in this world. Now I want more.
Yeah,
and that's where Core comes in.
Yeah, I think they really did it backwards that way. They should introduce it with Alpha Strike. So, I don't think in the beginner's box they provide the Alpha Strike rules, but they do provide the Alpha Strike cards, which is funny.
They do, yeah. And they gave you a watered down set of rules in the beginning box set.
Yeah,
at least in the first version that I got.
Yeah, the beginner's box definitely is not the full rules, which is good. They don't overwhelm you with all the weird stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, enough of that. Anything else to say why we like Battletech?
No, I mean, I think we all know, and I think everyone would agree that why it has lasted so long, even through the Dark Ages. I mean, the Clicks new group kept it alive, but then it was the video games that kind of got you through the Clicks era if you were a hardcore person like myself.
And ultimately, like that was like some of my first exposure to Battletech was Mech Warrior. Because seeing those video games were always pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Then it gets you into the world. Yeah, I think the world brings you in, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then, once you get a taste and you start to get into the novels and everything else, then you just kind of get hooked.
Nice.
So, all right. Well, that was fun. So let's move on to the ExFil and shut this thing down.
Shut her down. Reactor overload.
Let's ExFil out of here.
All right. So we come to the end of the show of our January episode. I hope everyone had a good New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Also having a good year for the first day.
That's right, New Year's Day.
So, I hope everyone had a good Christmas, including you guys.
Yes, same to you.
Hopefully Pat will not have a stroke and be able to continue doing more hobbying in the near future.
Yeah, we'll get something going.
Yeah, we will.
You got to get a travel kit.
I should. I did kickstart something that was kind of a travel kit, and of course this might be the Kickstarter where I might not get anything. I've been lucky so far. But this might be the Kickstarter where I just lose my money.
Oh, it hasn't shipped?
Or I don't see much going on with it.
Yeah.
There are people complaining and getting angry, as every Kickstarter gets. But, I will just sit here patiently and wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Here's to hopefully a pretty awesome 2022.
2022. Hopefully we're all better and you're all there and we're all riding around in some mechs.
Yeah.
At least have hover cars.
Hover car, yeah. Or aerospace fighters.
Yep. We always
it was just the second second anniversary of the Space Force.
No, that's true.
Today.
So, all right. Well then, guys, Happy New Year. Listeners, Happy New Year. Check out our Facebook pages, our Twitters, our Twitches, our Instagrams. Do we have an Instagram?
No.
Don't check it.
Well, you have an Instagram, but...
Yeah.
Do check out other podcasts, too. Check out Dead Zone the Podcast with Brian and Rick. Comes out monthly.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yep, monthly.
Check out The Dragon's Tome with Mr. Affable, Rob, and two other guys.
Yep. Rob, Pat, and Jack are on that one. And it's on... Yeah, it comes out weekly, that one. It's on YouTube. If you type in Dragon's Tome, as in a tome of a book. And, yeah.
Check out the team building exercises for Dead Zone on Family of Gamers 777.
Yep. Also on YouTube, we do a live show talking about building teams for Dead Zone, and mostly we just yell at each other. I think that's a little
there may or may not be a death in upcoming episodes.
That's right. We have duels to the death, so... yeah, I think that covers all the things we're into, and definitely join the Facebook if you're on Facebook, because Mobile Armor Radio on Facebook we have a lot of the posts. We post our pictures there. We do all that kind of stuff there mostly.
Yeah, most of the interaction is on the Facebooks.
I try to use the Discord a bit, but Facebook's the number one place to go, unfortunately. But that's all we got
at this point.
Yep.
All right, so for Mobile Armor Radio, I've been your host, Chopper.
I've been Brian.
And I'm still Rob.
And we will see you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been Mobile Armor Radio. Join our Facebook group by searching for Mobile Armor Radio. Find us on Twitter at @MArmorRadio. Find us on iTunes and visit our website, mobilearmorradio.podbean.com. Join us on the first of every month for more mecha discussion.